All right, all right, all right. Answers by guess. Week 6, game by game previews. What up there, guess?
What's up?
How are you there, sir?
I'm all right. I'm going to get this out of the way. I said I was going to point it out. I feel like all the times on the show, Rob looks so nice and like prim and proper and well cut, and I'm just like sitting over here all gross and greasy,
You look fantastic, man. Stop that.
scrubbed up.
All right, guys. Remember, always like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, go on TikTok, look for us on Twitter and Patreon. Always look for those hashtags, answers by guess and ABGFF. We are Fantasy Football's inside scoop from outside the box. Bye weeks. Holy crap. We're up to bye weeks. Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, Las Vegas Raiders, and your Tennessee Titans there. If you have them in your lineup, get them out. Talk about Thursday game there. Guess.
Yeah, I was starting to get a feeling throughout the week that it was going to be high scoring, and it kind of should have been. I made a couple comments to a couple people in the group on post. They were like collectively, like almost literally 3 inches away from 21 more points in that game. I mean, Fields threw the tight end, the backup tight end was just like an inch out of his grasp, a couple inches out of his grasp, and Fields got stopped at the inch line, and then they got stopped on 4th down as well. And then that touchdown at the end, it was 1 inch. Could have had that to Mooney. I started Fields because I had that feeling, and he did pretty well. He got me 22 and change. So it was between him, Zach Wilson, and Pickett, who I have on my team, kind of just for next week against the Dolphins. But he missed a lot of open guys, but you know who he reminds me of? Jalen Hurts. Do you remember like Jalen Hurts rookie year, missing a bunch of open guys, taking a lot of sacks, holding the ball too long, not taking off? They weren't really calling good plays for his skill set. And I kind of felt like the coaching staff, I even made this comment on air at Answers by Guess on the show that I didn't think he was going to be their quarterback for the future. I didn't think that they liked him. And then now this year, they've sort of tailored their offense to fit his needs. And they kind of were making that comment last night about, I think it was the halftime show guys, maybe Richard Sherman or Fitzpatrick. They were mentioned like these guys, they come in the league and some coaches say, you know what, we got this guy with this skill set. We're going to adapt our system to fit their, skills. Their coach, Chicago, has an offense and he's trying to get Fields to fit that offense, and it's just not working for him. It reminds me of Jalen Hurts. So if you're a Bears fan, kind of feel like he's got some development going on. He missed a couple guys, but a couple of his throws look pretty good. So Brian Robinson, I was telling people I'm going to wait a week. He got you that touchdown late after that muffed punt. So it was a little bit of a gift for B-Rob's truthers and starters. But he's definitely a guy. It was nice to see Antonio Gibson, when he did get touches, run really, really well and catch passes and run really well after the catch. So Curtis Samuel's hitting that decline, but he could have had a big touchdown if it was a better throw.
A lot of drops, I felt like. I think he had like 3.
Yeah. So like last night had potential. And I thought it would be high scoring. It was low scoring, but man, I mean, they left at least 4 or 5 touchdowns on the board. So it kind of stunk. But if you had the right guys, it was okay. Mooney was okay. So we're moving on. Hopefully next week's better. Arizona and the Saints.
At some points, I think even somebody had posted, it's like, oh my God, a touchdown on Thursday night. Holy crap.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the first game here. San Francisco 49ers at the Atlanta Falcons. San Francisco just beat up on the team last week, man. I mean, they just look like they're kind of hitting. Jeff Wilson Jr. has been pretty good. I think TDP's coming back this week. How does that change things? And then on the Atlanta Falcons side, they were a play away pretty much from possibly getting the ball back to beat Tampa Bay. That whole horrible call of roughing the passer and stuff like that. Tom Brady got fined today for kicking him or something like that. Stupidity. But this Atlanta Falcons team's kind of on a downward trend. Mariota, they're making him throw the ball. They're not letting him use his legs as much. And I think it's really working for them. Everyone's worried about Pitts. Everyone's worried about London. Are these guys startable?
As far as the Niners go, I think this is the Kittle week. I think, each week's been a little bit better, a little bit more. I think he's got a huge game. If you're a Kittle owner and you've been waiting and you're thinking about benching him, I think you should not. You should put him in your lineup. DFS purposes as well. If you want to go a little bit cheaper, he's a couple grand less than Kelsey from what I've seen. And I just think this is a perfect matchup. I think they're going to use him. They like to run the ball. Jeff Wilson's looked great, but like you said, TDP, Tyrion Davis-Price, is coming back more than likely. I mean, he's practiced in full since Wednesday. He was going to be my guesstimator, but he's a name that I had already given you this season before he went down with the ankle sprain. He was splitting, if not out carrying Jeff Wilson. So I think if you're a Jeff Wilson owner, I think your time to sell high passed. We'll see, how it goes in this one. Atlanta defense surprisingly has been better than I even thought that they would or could be. But I do think, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, and the running backs and Jimmy G are all fine starts in this one, especially with a bye week and the type of injuries that we have. I don't think I'd start TDP, but he's somebody you could pick up and just see how this goes. As far as Atlanta goes, getting Pitts back, we'll see if they actually throw to him. Mariota, when he has ran, you mentioned they're not letting him run too much, but when he has ran, he's looked really good.
Agreed.
And when he has thrown, he hasn't looked that good. So maybe, I don't know what's going on because, they need to throw the ball more. Let's see if they involve Pitts. I'm starting him where I have him, but I can't say I feel comfortable. Drake London, I do think he bounces back this week. He's hit a couple of down ones. They're going to need him. I think the 49ers can get up by double digits, 10 points, 10 to 14. And Atlanta's going to need to throw the ball a little more. I'm sitting, even though the defense is really banged up for the 49ers, their whole defensive line is injured. But the thing about the San Francisco 49ers is their defense is so good, their backups are really good. Their backups would be starters on most teams. So, like Algier, if you need him, but he's splitting with Huntley. And I think Avery is there. I mean, it's just like they got a bunch of different guys. And, Algier, he could pop one. He popped one a couple weeks ago. This defensive line is so banged up. Atlanta wants to run the ball. If you have to have Algier, you might get lucky if they get close to the goal line. But then you always run the risk of Mariota running in as well. I'm sitting Algier in favor of Rachaad White. We'll talk more about him when we get to the Tampa Bay Bucks. But I do think the Niners win this one, but I think it's close because Atlanta, although on a downturn, every single game they've been in has been close. I won't say they should have won last week, but they should have been in a position to win because they had them stopped and would have had some pretty good field position down one score. And the way they were coming back in that game, they had the momentum. They probably would have beat the Bucks, but we'll never know.
It just makes me hate TB12 even more. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next one here. New England Patriots at the Cleveland Browns. Excellent call by you. Yeah, you told them that the Lions weren't going to do anything against them. Bill Belichick was going to be ready for Goff. And holy crap, were you right. Harris is banged up. Stevenson seems like he's taken over that role over there, but Harris may play this week. How does that affect the running back situation? And I mean, Jacoby Myers, is it Parker? They're just so interchangeable. Mm-hmm. If we're going to play anybody, can we try to figure out who that starter is almost to a certain degree? On the flip side, obviously you're starting Chubb. Hunt's been kind of underwhelming to a certain extent, but I think you have to play him just because they have the best run offense in the league. Anybody we're starting from the wide receiver standpoint, and talk about Njoku, man. This guy's kind of revived himself.
Yeah, as far as the Patriots go, and you had mentioned Damian Harris, yeah, he's questionable. He's not going to play. I think they're playing games. This is typical Bill Belichick. I mean, he's got Mac Jones questionable as well. Mac Jones isn't going to play. He's got Jonnu Smith questionable. I don't think he plays this week. I think they hold him out one more. And the same thing with Harris. Stevenson is a must start. The Browns defense, you can run on them a little bit. And now they got some cornerbacks that are out. Zappy will be the quarterback. I see a lot of people starting Myers. A lot of people re-picked him up after those points. I feel like that's point chasing. We'll see. Has Myers ever put together two really strong games in a row when there has been another serviceable wideout? I don't think it's ever happened. I would not be surprised if Parker winds up being the one in this one, or even Aguilar. So I'm not starting any of them. If Jonnu Smith is in fact out and you have a tight end who's out, you might as well go back to the well with Hunter Henry. He was pretty good. He was involved last week. Each week over the past 3 weeks, he's actually playing more snaps, running more routes, and that was 2 weeks without or with Jonnu Smith, and thus getting more targets and more receptions and more yards. He's going to get a touchdown probably in this game. He's a good tight end streamer if you absolutely need one. Pierre Strong is a rookie running back for the Patriots. I would not be surprised if he's 25 to 30% of the snaps. I don't think that Stevenson's going to get 100. I don't know if Pierre Strong is somebody that you want to go grab. But if you're somebody who, like somebody in our league has been talking about, they need somebody on their team to fill in a spot over somebody that they have, maybe Pierre Strong is who you go out and grab somebody. As far as Cleveland goes, love Chubb in this one. I think being at home is going to greatly benefit them. And you could say that, Brissett is playing out of his mind. I could honestly see Bill Belichick, disrupting that. But, until somebody does, you just have to say, keep going with Cooper. But Cooper is the great magician. He has an amazing week, and he has a down week. So more than likely, I would say 50% of Amari Cooper owners had him on the bench last week because he's been stinking. And now they're going to put him in the game. He'll probably stink. It'll be Njoku, and it'll be DPJ. I think that this game is going to involve quite a bit of running. Even though the secondary for Cleveland is a little banged up, Belichick is going to be fine going into this one and trying to run on the Browns. So you pretty much play your studs. I know it's bye weeks. I know there's a ton of injuries, but I'm not going to take a shot on DPJ. But the tight ends are good. The running backs are good. And the wide receivers, unless it's Cooper, and you must, even though I feel like it's going to be down in comparison to last week, I'm fine with him. I would play Cooper over DPJ. And just hope he puts two good games together. But we should know better. This is what he did. Remember, years ago, he was on the Raiders, and he did nothing. And then he had that Monday night game where he had like 200 yards. Remember that? Where he just absolutely blew up. And like everyone's like, oh, Amari Cooper, finally, he's back, blah, blah, blah. And then he did nothing again. And it's just like, what the heck? And I feel like he had those games for Dallas as well after he played for the Raiders. So it's tough. And he's done it this year, 5 weeks in. And he's had 2 really good games and a couple of ghosters.
Sorry, my thing just keeps on freezing on me, just giving you a heads up. So if it looks like I'm not moving, or if I'm not, it's not me just sitting.
Yeah.
Not one of those. Sorry, man.
Noticing that. You were giving me one of those crooked eyes, and I was like, what? What's he trying to do to me over here?
Okay, I'm not stuck anymore. All right, let's go on to the next one here. New York Jets at the Green Bay Packers. My team versus your team. Yeah. I'll start with the Jets. They look good against Miami. 5 rushing touchdowns, man. Breece Hall is the freaking truth. Holy moly. Yeah. But Green Bay's defense isn't bad. Obviously, I think Breece Hall is a must start. Who are we starting from the wide receiver crew as far as the Jets? And can Michael Carter be a start too? He is getting some touchdown love. On the flip side, a tale of two halves for Green Bay, pumping the ball really well. And then they just got boring in the second half and they let the Giants beat them. Christian Watson's out. Dubs didn't have a great game, but Cobb targeted a bunch. You mentioned it on your Tuesday show. I guess he is a thing. How comfortable do we feel starting against this New York Jets defense that's actually playing okay? And talk about A.J. Dillon's role in this team. I feel like it's been going down more and more each week. Is this a week that he can actually show up?
Yeah, typically I would, you know how I roll with Green Bay. I get a feeling. And I think if they didn't blow that game last week, I think that I would think the Jets have a better shot here. I do think Green Bay wins this one. It could very well be close, but being at home and the collapse last week, I mean, you go 4 for 4 in the first half, 4 drives, 4 scores, and then you don't score again to the safety. And it's just like, well, what changed? Your offense changed. You had stupid play calling, but it is what it is. The Jets, Zach Wilson looked pretty good. Breece Hall doesn't get stopped on a couple passes at the 1 yard line a couple times. Those are passing touchdowns and not rushing touchdowns. So Zach Wilson, Green Bay Packers defense is really good, but they obviously, as the Giants showed last week, can be scored on, and the Vikings showed in week 1. So I think because of the 3 wide receivers that they have, I think that they'll be able to do damage. They still got Conklin. They got those 2 running backs. I'm telling you, the speedy, shifty running backs out of the back and the rushing quarterbacks. Listen, we haven't seen Zach Wilson run. I think we're going to see Zach Wilson run in this game. I think the Jets, if they go into this game, they draw up a few plays, or they at least give Zach Wilson the green light to, when you drop back, if there's good coverage, find a seam and hit it, run. Because he's got legs. He ran in college. He's a very good runner. But we haven't seen it. And it could be because he's coming back from injury. But if they want to beat Green Bay, I think they're going to need Zach Wilson's legs in this one. Don't force the ball. Garrett Wilson's been down a couple weeks. I have to start him in at least one league. I'm considering 2, but because I don't really even want to start him in 1, I'm just going to just leave it at 1, play somebody else in the other one. But wouldn't it surprise me if he gets back into the fold in this one? He's clearly their most talented wide receiver. I mean, we know Elijah Moore was his favorite last year. We haven't really seen, the first week back, he was hitting them. Last week, didn't really go to him. But listen, he only, what did he complete last week? 16 passes, 21 passes or something. I think 11 or 12 of them were to the running backs. So he was just hitting his running backs because they were playing against Skylar Thompson, or if that's even his name. I don't even know. So
14 for 21.
Okay, so 14 for 21. I think 11 or 12 of the receptions were to the running backs. Is that? Could you see?
I can't see all that. Yeah, to be honest, okay. I can look at it more in depth.
I want to say that something like that. Like every time he was dropped back, it was a dump off to the running back. It was a running play, but that was a pass basically, because they knew they didn't have to pass very much against this quarterback because, as Rob said, their defense was pretty good. Their top 2 wide receivers were hurt last week in Miami. Miami was just running the ball like crazy. It was just, the air was taken out of the ball, so to speak. So they're going to have to throw in this one. So Garrett Wilson, Elijah Mitchell, and even the old man, and he's not even that old, Corey Davis, is viable play. But I think Breece Hall is your absolute must start. As far as Green Bay goes, I liked what I saw out of Cobb last week. I would like to see it happen again. Christian Watson, they're probably going to shut him down for the season, or at least extended period of time. So those of you that listen to me and drafted Dubs instead of Watson, like I said in the preseason, that he would be better. Good job. He's been a little bit out of it. Lazard's been a little involved, but they want to run the ball still. But yet their running backs haven't been doing great, as you mentioned. There's someone that I absolutely love in this game, and you mentioned him. Senor Dillon. Senor Thighs a lot. I think he has a huge game. I think that they run the ball early and often. expecting that their defense can force the young quarterback into mistakes. I'm not sure if Zach Wilson's going to succumb to that because I like Zach Wilson. He does make some mistakes, but he's a pretty smart quarterback with his throws. We saw that last week. Look downfield, nothing's there, dump it off to the running back. But I do think that A.J. Dillon gets going in this one. There's a lot of people that are dumping A.J. Dillon that I'm seeing. And I don't understand how or why. One injury to Aaron Jones, and you have a top 10 running back at minimum. I think this is a good game for him. I think he's a great DFS play. He's dirt cheap. I think the Packers can win this one. I think it's close, relatively low scoring, 22-21.
We may have to make a side bet. You might have to give me some points, but we'll definitely talk about that. Elijah Moore, by the way. You said Elijah Mitchell. Just giving everybody a heads up.
That's what I meant.
All right. Jacksonville at the Indianapolis Colts. I guess I'll start with Jacksonville. Losing to the Texans last week. T-Law did not look good. Kirk wasn't there. Their wide receiver crew is pretty much banged up too. I'm high on T-Law this year. We had talked about it previously. You're high on him to a certain extent. It's like if you don't have healthy receivers, though, can you actually pass the ball well? Let's talk about the run game as well, just because it seems like it's up in the air as well. On the flip side, Indianapolis Colts off that Thursday snooze fest. Jonathan Taylor seems like he's coming back. Naeem Hines seems like he's coming back. I really like Pierce, man. I think you're hitting the nail on the head when it comes to Pierce. People are saying he could be the wide receiver one. Pittman, I think, is still better, but Pierce is that Wes Welker type, in my opinion. I don't know if you've mentioned that, or maybe I did hear that from you. But again, the same type of situation of that comfort zone. Do we see Matt Ryan throwing the ball against this Jacksonville defense? It's kind of pretty good. Can I say that?
Yeah, they are. And as far as Trevor Lawrence, heading into week 4, he looked really good. And like really, really good. And week 4, they had to play Philly. And Philly is really, really good. And it was in Philly. And, he held his own. They ended up losing close at the end, I think by like 8 points or something. But I think they were right in there. They were at least trying to come back and get right in it. And then last week, I don't know what the hell happened. You're playing against the Houston Texans. What the hell happened? How do you lose that game 13-6? Or did they win 13-6?
They lost 13-6.
Yeah. It's like, how? How does that happen? This is supposed to be a smash spot. I don't know what happened. I'm just going to throw that game out. They had something the week before all of this. 2 touchdowns to Jamal Agnew, using him as a wide receiver. And the past 2 weeks since then, they've just sort of gotten away from him. I don't get it. Christian Kirk is your best. Marvin Jones is old. Zay Jones is, he's best remembered for kicking a window in a hotel room and cutting his leg all up. Remember that?
They do.
So it's use Jamal Agnew. They are starting to use ETN. James Robinson has had a couple down weeks. One of them was against Philly. Okay. One of them was last week. I don't know what the hell happened last week. Last week was a complete, here's a picture of the NFL, turn it upside down. It was like that game made absolutely zero sense to me for every single player involved. Just made zero sense. I throw it out. It's second place. It's a distant second place, but it's very close because the other one was so egregious and so ridiculous to that opening game with San Francisco and the Bears in the monsoon. Like last week's Jacksonville Texans game is like as close to a throwout as that one. So I'm throwing it out. So this week I'm saying James Robinson, put him back in your lineups. ETN, keep him in your lineups. Christian Kirk, put him in your lineups. You're not playing Jamal Agnew, but they should use him. As far as the Colts, they're coming off a Thursday game. That might be third place. What the hell are you teams doing? What were you doing, Denver? What were you doing, Indianapolis? Granted, Denver was out without Javonte Williams. Rob's frozen. Granted, the Colts were without Jonathan Taylor. Maybe that's the reason these teams couldn't move the ball and score a touchdown. But I'm throwing it out. And I'm going to say the Colts at home are going to come into this one. Jonathan Taylor's going to play. If you got nothing better, you probably got to start him. I'm debating playing Eno Benjamin over Jonathan Taylor just because I don't want a re-injury in the second quarter, and I have to go through this whole thing with Rob's gone with no running back. So I'd rather just put Benjamin in there. And as far as the Colts go, Rob had mentioned Alec Pierce. I do think Pittman is still the best tight end on the team, and Alec Pierce is clearly ascending and clearly a favorite option. But the coverage last week was shaded more towards Pittman, taking him out of the game, and the week before. I'm playing Pittman. I'm playing Pierce. I'm not touching the tight ends. Jonathan Taylor, if I have nothing better, but if I have something good, I'd at least consider benching him because I don't want a re-injury and having to play after the second quarter with just one running back because my other one, Jonathan Taylor, got knocked out. So I had mentioned, Rob, while you were gone, I'm considering in one league putting Eno Benjamin over Jonathan Taylor. And if Jonathan Taylor goes off, oh well, I think Eno Benjamin should go off as well.
With Connor out, it makes sense.
So I'm thinking I'd rather do that than worry about an injury in the middle game. Tough defense. But the point of this whole thing, so we can wrap this up. Jaguars game last week, I don't know what the hell was going on. Colts game last week, I don't know what the hell was going on. I think both teams, both offenses show up big time in this one. You're going to want your Jaguars. You're going to want your Colts in there. High-scoring division game for first place, essentially.
All right, let's see what happens. Yeah, sorry, guys. When your wife's playing music, kids are playing video games, we're trying to record. Sometimes the internet gets a little jammed up.
We're the last totem pole.
Oh, yeah. And the funny part, I'm the closest thing to the router, and I still can't get the love. All right, guys. Remember, always like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, go on TikTok, Twitter, and Patreon. Look for those hashtags. We'll be back with the rest of the games coming up soon.
See ya.